Mindcraft podcast. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I am here with my friend and colleague, Dr. Tom Myers. And we're pretty excited, I would say today, to really talk about and hone in on this idea of the importance of belonging. And Tom and I have really seen, we work with young adults, and we've really noticed that this is an issue, right? And that also, there's been a lot of talk about in general that this current generation of young adult is among the most anxious and depressed we've ever seen. And of course, we're talking about the belonging. The flip side of that is loneliness, right? That's what we're talking about, right, Tom?
Yeah, having a sense of belonging, and you know, this is before the pandemic. I mean, we saw a lot of the anxiety and depression and feeling of loneliness that was really prevalent, you know, before we hit this massive worldwide pandemic, you know, and I think that exacerbated even, obviously, you know, huge magnitude. So it's just the sense of, you know, what is it to belong? You know, what is it to belong to someone, something, and to feel within this belonging sense that you matter. And it's interesting, I was just visiting some relatives and they had bumper stickers everywhere, you know, that you matter. And
I
so
like that.
I do too, I really like that. So it's not, you know, if those bumper stickers are out there in public, I mean, there's something to it, right? We're seeing a level that you do matter, and you do have a sense, a self-worth that is valuable for others to see and interact with.
You know,
You
know, and it's so amazing, Tom, you're going straight to there, because, you know, obviously, you know, we know this cognitively, right? Yet, loneliness, as we both know, Tom and I were actually chatting right before we got on here, that at least in the United States anyway, loneliness is now up there with heart disease and smoking with, you know, for the highest risk of death. Mm-hmm. So this is a big deal. And Tom and I were also talking about over in the UK and England, just a couple prime ministers ago, they actually created a job for a minister of loneliness, because it's going on over there too. So why is it that we know this cognitively, maybe, that we matter, but obviously there are millions of people out there who aren't, it's not connected, they're not feeling like they matter. What do you think's going on?
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting, we were talking earlier about listening to a speaker the other day, and he said something really profound, and he said, being alone distorts reality. When you are by yourself for extended periods of time, lo and behold, your sense of who you are, your self-worth, your self-confidence, you don't have any external feedback or interaction to confirm or promote who you are and your feelings. So being by yourself for prolonged periods of time, just from the mental state, creates this feeling of distortion, like, what, you know, am I worth anything? Am I really, you know, by myself, I'm not having interaction to get this feedback. And I think that we can, you know, as I said earlier, the pandemic has just underscored this feeling of, well, I've been here all day by myself, I'll just spend, you know, the night, it's fine, I don't really have any interest in getting out. Tomorrow I'll do the same, I don't really, you know, what's my worth? Is it really, anyone really going to want to see me anyway? So this distortion really is very profound and hits that physiological piece of what is our body doing.
That's a good
relative to this. Oh, okay, well, you're not getting up and moving around, you don't want to see people, we're going to begin to, hate to say it, but things shut down, or things become dormant. So. Wow,
that's heavy. You know where my mind went right away is that, you know, it sounds like, you know, getting like super deep, but that's also why, sadly, solitary confinement has been used for such as like the ultimate form of punishment, is to remove somebody from the group, right?
Absolutely.
And so, you know, because people...
It's a death sentence.
It's a death sentence, yeah, mentally. But I'm wondering too, Tom, what your thoughts are on, you know, we're on this beautiful college campus, and it's beautiful. There's not much more beautiful than a college campus in the fall, I think, especially.
It's beautiful here.
This is gorgeous here. But also, so there's the isolation, of course, the pandemic and everything. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, even if somebody's not physically isolated, there's that whole quote unquote alone in a crowd situation. And do you think that that kind of, plays in also? Or does somebody have to be physically removed?
No, I think you can be isolated in a crowd, definitely. I mean, you can walk amongst others and be as anonymous as you can, and you can actively, I've done it, but actively skirt ways to avoid and be there, but not be seen, not be noticed.
Lone wolf.
Yeah, lone wolf in a way that is, invisible.
Right. So what do you think the effects are? Like, if we'll use the wolf thing right now, it's kind of rolled out of us, but if the wolf is removed from the pack, and let's say they're choosing, maybe passively choosing, because like you were saying earlier, just now about, oh, I've been here all day, like in the pandemic. Oh, I don't feel like walking across campus to get food. I'll get Uber Eats and it comes to the door. Where is that going as far as mental health? What do you think about that? As somebody continues to be in that, it's like a momentum thing, right?
Yeah.
It gets tougher to de-isolate.
You get stuck. It's in that rut.
Right.
And I want to go back to something earlier that we talked about, is it can be a death sentence. And we as human beings are social animals, and we rely on each other for sustenance and for support. And so at the dawn of human beings, if you were in a group and you were outcast from that group, like to be in solitary confinement, to be alone, like you're no longer part of us, that was a death sentence, because you no longer could hunt and gather and work as a team, as a group to depend on survival.
Essentially, so you could survive.
You couldn't survive.
Right.
And it's interesting. I watched the show Alone, where they're dropping people in the middle.
I've seen that,
right?
actually, yeah.
And these people have just, men and women have just incredible survival skills. What gets them, oftentimes, like, even though they have food and they just they cannot be away from other people and their families. They think about loved ones back home, and that's what they begin. It seeps into that psyche. It seeps into their being, and it's like, I could be here. I could stay here for another month, but I just can't, because I miss. I'm feeling so alone, and I'm becoming, the effects, the neuroses of the thinking.
The neuroses, I'm thinking of, obviously, depression results too, and when we get stuck in our heads, we often need to be kind of pushed out of there a little bit. And I know it's kind of totally paraphrasing Gandhi horribly, but I know it's a real kind of, he was all about, when you're feeling blue, get out and do something for somebody too. Get out, get out of your head and do something for someone. Because I think, on a more positive note, that can really help with the isolation, to get out and do something for someone. And also, Tom, see how you feel about this, because obviously, when you were talking about earlier, with the hypothetical student saying, oh, well, I didn't go out all day and I'm just gonna, that's avoidance behavior, right? And we know, psychologically speaking, when we cave into avoidance behavior, like, I'm not going to walk across campus because I'm feeling too anxious, or I'm not going to walk across campus because I'm feeling too depressed, I'm not walking across campus because I just want to, bury in my dorm, that the next time it's even tougher, because it reinforces. So what do you think about
negative reinforcement?
Right.
Yeah. And how do you get out of it?
How do you get out of it? We want to end on a good note here, right? So how do we?
I think it's a really good point. Like, to know that you have value. Everyone has value. Everyone wants to be seen. Everybody needs to connect. And if it might be that pick up your phone or go and meet with someone, just to have a touch of reality again. But just, no matter how simple a phone call is, if it's to a family member or to a friend, I think that's something that we've struggled with, I guess, speaking from those of us who identify as men, and males, really, again, back to, we need to be in community to survive. Yet guys say, I can do that on my own. I don't need to be with anyone. I don't need to reach out for help. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to push through it. I'm going to, put my nose down or head down and go. and it's a paradox. Like when we need to be with others the most, but we feel that we can do it on our own, you know, so we need to be connected. So it's picking up that phone, making a call, having, I think we talked about earlier, was it Vivek Murthy's book Together?
Yeah.
When it's like very few, I'm speaking about men right now, have such a close friend that, you know, if they need to reach out at 3:30 in the morning, very few, I can't remember the statistic, but it's almost non-existent, have that one person that they can call. So,
wow, that's hard because also I feel like there's another podcast on that. I do the gender related stuff that we were Tom and I were talking about earlier. The famous Harvard study with the director was Robert Waldinger. I think it was.
Yeah.
He might be. I'm not sure he's the current one, but anyway, it's a very very famous study on happiness, and of course the results were that the number one for longevity, number one. And a high quality of life was relationships, meaning positive relationships. Toxic relationships go the other direction. But that was a study where they started out with all men.
In 1930.
1930, started with boys and obviously evolved into men. Now I think it's, I know it is. Now it's women and kids and everything else. But back then, that's what they did. And they found that, you know, some developed alcoholism, schizophrenia, one president of the United States. And through the whole thing, the main theme was relationships are what get you through. It's what made me think of this is when Tom just said the 3 o'clock in the morning thing. Because that's like that's the definer. Not all the small talk. Go Yankees! I'm a big fan, but all that stuff is Judge 62. I'm just saying. But we need those people too. It's fun to talk at the water cooler about you know, like the banter, right, that they say, right? But then when it comes down to it, you're richer than rich if you have one of those. You can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, your heart's aching, you know that they'll keep your confidence, they won't tell anybody your stuff, they're gonna listen actively, sit with you while you're sobbing, and that's what keeps us living a long life and a high quality of life.
Yeah, that's like the one common denominator. And even the Harvard sophomores, I think, when they started in 1930, but they're also the kids in the poorer neighborhoods. So it was like a somewhat of a wider demographic there. Yeah, but that one piece, like having enriched relationships and being in concert with other people that
who you can trust.
Yeah, and you said they're not toxic relationships.
Right.
You know, again, long marriages or long friendships, and that's what people refer to.
And you've got 2 or 3 of those. So I said to my students, my mind crafters, that you are richer than any billionaire on this planet if you've got like more than one of those. You're already rich with one, but 2 or 3, wow, you're sailing.
Yeah.
Right? People you can count on and love you inside and out unconditionally.
Yeah, it's really so true. And it's just interesting. It doesn't matter who you are, you know. And I was telling you, was talking to this champion athlete, you know, multi-millionaire, you know, who also said, I'm lonely, you know, has everything in the world if needed, but, you know, so it doesn't matter who you are.
No, it doesn't.
And I tell you, during the pandemic, you know, I'm extroverted, you know, I'm from Myers-Briggs parlance, and I just love being with people, and I get so much energy.
Me too.
You know, we get energy from each other and just being in groups. And during the pandemic, other people noticed probably the same thing, but being on Zoom or being on, you know, an online video conference, it just doesn't do it. And so when I'm sitting around a table in a meeting with folks, you know, it's energizing, and I love to be, you know, there and contributing. Online, I'm looking at my watch every 5 minutes.
It's not the same thing. We can't.
I will give just enough what's needed, and then.
We can't get it through a screen. That's research, as you know, and we both know it's research demonstrated, because the mirror neurons don't work through a screen very well. So the good old-fashioned face-to-face. So I'm feeling like we have another one in us. So I think many other. Tom and I get along great.
Belonging is the main piece today,
and about feeling heard, seen, and validated. Right? It doesn't know any demographics, because loneliness is an equal opportunity employer. Right? It's just so, no matter how much money somebody makes, like you were saying. In fact, I even had an article for my Minecrafters once. And I think it was, I might not be exactly right, but it was basically millionaires get depressed too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't know it doesn't know any bounds, you know. And so, seen, heard, and validated, and really the main thing is, as much as it can be very difficult when we're stuck in that, right? Really, as they say, the only way out is through. Like, we've got to make connections, no matter where you land on the introvert, extrovert spectrum. We are all wired, right?
Yeah.
We're all wired for connection.
Yeah, all wired to, you know, to have be in community and connection. And in some of the text we've used for our workshops, it doesn't matter the group that you're in. You know, there's just so many wonderful, you know, interests and hobbies and clubs, you know, that you find your, I say find your tribe, but find that group that you can have in common, something in common with. If it's a knitting group or a book group or a running group or whatever it is, you know, that you have a club or something, no matter how unique, you know, you feel that you can feel that you have a sense of belonging with them and you're valued. That you have you know, you're seen and people look forward to seeing you. Right. That's really an important thing. And again, getting away from that distortion that we can have when we're by ourselves.
Prevent it.
Yeah,
by good old-fashioned face-to-face, even if you have to start with a phone call. So, okay, so that's it. This is Dr. Tom Myers and Kimberly Quinn signing off. Have a mindful day.